Welcome back to Velvet Moments. There are moments in K-pop that don't arrive with noise. They don't announce themselves. They don't demand attention. They simply appear quietly. And somehow they linger longer than anything loud ever could. Today is about one of those moments. A few photos. A calm day in Gojang. A photo book that was never meant to create waves. And yet within those still frames something stirred. Something honest, something unguarded, something that felt too real to ignore. Tonight we're not here to speculate loudly. We're here to listen closely. To body language, to silence. And to the emotions captured when no one thought the world was watching. This is the story of Jungkook and Jimin. And the quiet shock that followed when their most natural moment went viral. In the world of K-pop, some moments are carefully designed to be seen. Polished with perfect lighting, framed by intention, and released with precision timing. But there are other moments. Moments that were never meant to become anything at all. Not announced. Not highlighted. Not given a name. And yet, those are the moments that echo the loudest. The release of Jin's original digital code photobook was supposed to be quiet. A visual archive. A collection of memories meant to preserve warmth, sincerity, and fragments of time that once passed unnoticed. No dramatic teasers. No promises of surprises. Just Jin, Gojang, and the calm atmosphere of days that felt ordinary. But fandoms never look with only one pair of eyes. Between the pages filled with stillness and nostalgia, two figures appeared. Not centered, not emphasized, not posed, yet somehow impossible to ignore. Jimin. They weren't performing. They weren't acknowledging the camera. They weren't trying to be seen. They were simply there. And that perhaps was the problem. Because in a world where distance is often calculated and interactions are consciously measured, closeness that happens without effort always stands out. At first it was just one photo. Then another. Then carefully cropped screenshots began circulating. Soft zooms, subtle highlights, quiet observations. The timeline didn't explode. It pulsed. Like a heartbeat growing louder in a silent room. Why are they standing that close? That doesn't look staged. Their expressions feel different. There were no loud accusations. No dramatic claims. Just calm observations, and somehow that made them heavier. The photos didn't give answers. But they asked too many questions to be ignored. In one image, Jimin stood slightly angled toward Jungkook, their shoulders almost touching. His expression was relaxed. Unaware, unguarded, unfiltered. Jungkook beside him looked away from the camera, his gaze unfocused as if drawn to something, or someone, next to him rather than the lens itself. There was no obvious skinship. No exaggerated gesture. But body language never lies. And the fandom understood that language all too well. Within hours, Jikook began trending again. Not as a new narrative, but as an old feeling resurfacing with fresh evidence. Threads grew longer not to prove something, but to articulate what had always been felt yet never fully captured. Meanwhile, the two people inside those photos were entirely unprepared for the reaction. Jungkook realized it first by accident. At first, it was just an unusual number of notifications. His phone vibrated once. Twice. Then repeatedly. He opened it casually without expectation, until his thumb froze. One photo. He stared at it longer than he expected. Not because he didn't recognize the moment, but because he recognized it too well. He remembered that day. The ear in Gojang. The way he had stood there without thinking. Without calculating distance. Without reminding himself of cameras. And now, millions of people were seeing what had once felt invisible. His expression shifted, not into panic, not into fear, but into a quiet shock. The kind that comes when you realize something small to you has become significant to everyone else. Jimin, on the other hand, discovered the photos in silence. He was alone when the images appeared on his screen, the soft glow reflecting against his face. He smiled faintly at the first photo, instinctively like someone revisiting a gentle memory. But when the second image appeared, the smile faded. Not because he was upset. Not because he wanted to deny it. But because he knew. He knew that moment. He knew that closeness wasn't accidental. And he knew, without needing words, that the photo captured something far too honest. Jimin exhaled slowly. So, they noticed, he murmured softly. Not as a complaint, but as a quiet acknowledgement to himself. What made the photos go viral wasn't their resolution. Wasn't the fact that they came from Jin's photobook. Wasn't even the location. It was the absence of intention. They weren't trying to look close. They weren't trying to look distant. They were simply being themselves. And authenticity, when exposed, is impossible to disguise. When Jungkook and Jimin finally found themselves in the same space again, there was no dramatic discussion. No emergency meeting. No damage control. Jungkook just held up his phone and showed him one image. Jimin looked at it. Then let out a quiet laugh, soft, almost breath-like. "I thought I was the only one who felt something was different that day," he said gently. Jungkook nodded. "Me too." That was all. No further explanation was needed. Because those photos didn't reveal something new. They simply confirmed something that had always existed. Something lived quietly, without performance, without an audience. To the fandom, it was a viral moment. To outsiders, it was an interesting coincidence. But to Jungkook and Jimin, it was just a fragment of a calm day in Gojang. A day when they forgot to maintain distance because they didn't feel watched. And perhaps, that was the most surprising part. Not that the world saw it, but that the world finally noticed something they had never tried to hide, yet never tried to show either. The photos will continue to circulate. They will be analyzed, saved, discussed. But the feeling inside them was never meant to become proof. It was simply captured. And sometimes, the most honest moments appear when we aren't trying to say anything at all. Yet the world listens anyway. Some moments are never meant to become evidence. They're not created to convince. Not designed to prove anything at all. They exist simply because two people stood where they always stand. Close, familiar, unafraid. And perhaps that's why these photos stayed with us. Not because they revealed something new, but because they reflected something that had always been there. Soft, consistent, and real. In the end, Jungkook and Jimin didn't say anything. They didn't need to. Because sometimes silence speaks loud enough. And honesty doesn't require explanation. Thank you for staying with us until the end. This has been Velvet Moments, where the quietest scenes leave the deepest echoes.